They ask me about the Meuse Argonne now, 60 years on, like it's ancient history, like it's something you read in a book, but I can still smell it. That's the thing they don't tell you. The smell never leaves. I was 22 when we shipped out from New York in June of 18. Farm boy from Iowa, never been further than Des Moines. My pa shook my hand at the train station, didn't say much, didn't need to. We both knew what was happening over there, even if the papers dressed it up in flags and glory. The AEF, American Expeditionary Forces, we were fresh troops for an old war. The French and British, they'd been bleeding in those trenches for 4 years. You could see it in their eyes when we arrived. They looked at us like we were ghosts already. By September, we were bivouacked near Verdun. The trees there weren't any trees, just stumps and splinters, like God had taken a razor to the whole countryside. The ground was dead. Nothing grew. Shell craters filled with brown water that smelled like copper and rot. We trained for the big push. General Pershing wanted to prove American soldiers could fight as good as any, maybe better. The Meuse-Argonne sector, they told us it was strategic, that breaking through there would cut German supply lines, maybe end the war by Christmas. I remember Eddie Kowalski from Chicago bunked next to me. He kept a photograph of a girl named Mary, showed it to anyone who'd look, said he was going to marry her soon as we got home. We believed we'd all be home soon. We had to believe something. The offensive was set for September 26th. The night before, nobody slept much. We checked our equipment, wrote letters we hoped we wouldn't need to send. I remember my hands wouldn't stop shaking when I tried to light a cigarette. At 02:30 hours, our artillery opened up. The whole world turned into thunder. For 3 hours, we pounded their lines. 2,700 guns, they told us later. I believed it. The noise wasn't just loud. It got inside you, shook your bones, made your teeth ache. You couldn't hear yourself think. Couldn't hear the man next to you screaming questions you couldn't answer. When the barrage lifted at 05:30, we went over. The fog was thick that morning, thick as wool. You couldn't see 20 yards ahead. Maybe that was mercy. We moved forward through the Argonne forest, what was left of it. Trees stripped bare, hanging at broken angles. The ground was churned mud and wire and things you tried not to look at too close. First hour, we made good progress. The Germans were falling back, or so it seemed. We took some prisoners, young kids mostly, looked as scared as we felt. One of them couldn't have been more than 17. He was crying. Then the machine guns opened up. They'd positioned them in concrete pillboxes we hadn't known about. Enfilade fire, that's the technical term. What it meant was they could sweep entire lines of us. Men dropped, just dropped, like someone cut the power. I hit the dirt behind a log. Bullets chewed up the wood above my head, sending splinters everywhere. Eddie was somewhere to my right. I couldn't see him through the smoke and fog. Sergeant Morrison was yelling orders, trying to get us moving again. The fog started to clear around noon. That's when it got worse. You could see the German positions now, dug into the high ground. We were supposed to advance across open ground, up hills, into their guns. The artillery hadn't done what they promised. The wire wasn't cut. The pillboxes weren't destroyed. We went anyway. What else could we do? I saw Morrison take one in the chest. He sat down hard, looked surprised more than anything, tried to say something, but blood came out instead of words. Eddie made it to a shell crater. I saw him wave at me, gesturing to come over. I ran. Don't remember deciding to run, just did. Bullets snapping past like angry hornets. I dove into that crater, and Eddie grabbed my shoulder, laughing this crazy laugh. "Hell of a day, huh?" he said. We stayed there until dark. Couldn't go forward, couldn't go back. Just waited while the battle raged around us, hoping a shell wouldn't land in our little hole in the ground. The nights were worse than the days. At least during the day, you could see what was coming. We crawled back to our lines after midnight, found what was left of our company. Maybe half of us made it through that first day. The replacement lieutenant, fresh from officer training, tried to give us orders. Nobody listened. He didn't know, couldn't know. They sent us back in on the 27th, and the 28th, and the 29th. The Argonne forest became a slaughterhouse. Every yard of ground cost blood. The Germans had been there for 4 years, knew every hill, every ridge, every killing ground. We were learning as we died. The gas came on the third day. You'd hear the shells, different sound than regular artillery, softer, almost gentle. Then the yellow-green clouds would roll across no man's land. We'd scramble for our masks, fingers clumsy with panic. The masks were supposed to protect you. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. I watched a kid from Tennessee, never knew his name, claw at his throat when his mask failed. His face turned purple, then blue. He drowned on dry land, drowning in his own lungs. We couldn't help him. You can't help anyone in gas. Eddie and I stuck together. You needed someone. Someone to watch your back, to keep you sane, to remind you that you were still human and not just meat waiting to rot. We took Montfaucon on October 1st. Took it and lost it and took it again. The ruins of the village changed hands 3 times in one day. Buildings that were already rubble got turned into smaller rubble. We fought room to room, floor to floor, sometimes just feet apart from the Germans. I killed a man there, up close, bayonet. They train you for it, make you practice on dummies, yell at you to be aggressive. But the dummy doesn't look at you, doesn't make a sound, doesn't bleed hot and red all over your hands. His eyes. I still see his eyes. We ate when we could, slept when we could. Food tasted like dirt and ash. Water tasted worse. Everything tasted like death because death was everywhere. In the air, in the ground, in your clothes, in your mouth. The bodies, Jesus Christ, the bodies. You couldn't bury them all, couldn't even try. They just became part of the landscape. You'd use them for cover, crouch behind some poor bastard who died yesterday or last week. After a while, you stopped thinking of them as people, had to. Otherwise, you'd go mad. Maybe we went mad anyway. Rats everywhere, big as cats, fat on what they found. They'd come out at night, bold as anything. We'd shoot at them sometimes, waste ammunition we couldn't spare, just to feel like we had some control over something. October dragged on. Days blurred together. Attack, retreat, attack again. Take a hill, lose a hill. Names on the map that meant nothing except more dying. Examont, Fleville, Romagne. Each one bought with hundreds of lives. Eddie stopped talking about Mary, stopped showing her picture, just stared at nothing with this blank expression like he'd gone somewhere else inside his head. I knew how he felt. You had to go somewhere else. Being present, being here in this hell, it was too much. Your mind would break if you stayed. By mid-October, we weren't soldiers anymore. We were machines that moved and killed and somehow kept breathing. The army kept feeding replacements into the meat grinder, fresh faces who'd be dead in a day, sometimes hours. We'd stopped learning their names. The weather turned. Rain came, cold and constant. The trenches filled with water up to your knees. Your feet went numb, then they hurt, then they went numb again. Trench foot rotted the flesh right off some men's bones. You could smell it before you saw it, sweet and rotten, like fruit gone bad. But we kept going. Orders were orders. Attack at dawn, they'd say. Take that ridge, take that village. Always one more objective, one more push, one more day of dying. The German resistance was getting desperate. They knew they were losing, but they made us pay for every inch. Snipers, artillery, counterattacks in the fog. They fought like cornered animals because that's what they were, what we all were. I remember October 14th clear as anything. We were pushing through the Bois de Raps. Eddie was on my left, maybe 10 yards away. We'd been together since New York, survived everything this God-forsaken forest could throw at us. The shell landed between us. I don't remember the sound, just the pressure waves slamming into me, throwing me back. My ears were ringing so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Couldn't hear myself screaming Eddie's name. When the smoke cleared, he was gone. Not dead. I could have handled dead. Just gone. Scattered. Pieces. The photograph of Mary was lying in the mud, somehow untouched. I picked it up, put it in my pocket. Don't know why. Maybe because someone should remember she existed, that he'd loved her, that he'd been a person with a life waiting for him. They didn't even stop the attack. We just kept moving. Step over the crater, step over what's left, keep going. That's what you do. I stopped feeling things after that. There was a numbness that settled over me like a blanket. It was better that way, safer. If you didn't feel, you couldn't break. We finally broke through the Kriemhilde Stellung, the German defensive line, on October 16th. Cost us everything to do it. The casualty reports came in later. Over 100,000 American casualties in the Meuse Argonne. 26,000 dead. But we'd broken them. The war was ending. Everyone could feel it now, even if nobody said it out loud. November came, cold and gray. We were still fighting, still dying, but slower now. The Germans were falling back, conserving strength for a retreat that couldn't save them. On November 11th, at 11 a.m., it stopped. The guns went quiet. After 47 days of constant thunder, the silence was deafening. Men just stood there, not knowing what to do. Some cried, some laughed. Most just stood there, empty. I didn't feel anything. The numbness had settled in too deep. They wanted us to celebrate. Officers broke out wine they'd been saving, passed around cigars. We won, they kept saying. The war's over. We won. I looked around at what was left of us. Hollow-eyed men in filthy uniforms standing in a forest of corpses and shattered trees. This is what winning looked like. We stayed in France for months after the armistice. Occupation duty, they called it. Marched through German towns where civilians watched us with hate in their eyes. I didn't blame them. We'd have looked at them the same way. I tried to write letters home, sat there with paper and pen, but couldn't find words. How do you tell your mother what you've seen? How do you tell your kid sister about the smell of burning flesh, about using dead men for cover, about killing someone close enough to see the fear in their eyes? You don't. You can't. So you write lies about the weather and the food and how you'll be home soon. The nightmares started before we even left France. I'd wake up screaming, covered in sweat, still hearing the shells, still seeing eddies scattered across the mud. The other men understood. We didn't talk about it, but we understood. We shipped home in April 1919. New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty, crowds cheering and waving flags. A band played. Girls threw flowers. Everyone was so happy, so proud. I felt nothing. Just that same numbness, like there was a wall of glass between me and the world. My pa met me at the station in Des Moines. He looked older than I remembered. I must have looked older, too, because he flinched when he first saw me. Tried to hide it, but I saw. "Welcome home, son," he said. But I wasn't home, not really. Home was a place that didn't exist anymore, or maybe I was the one who didn't exist. The farm looked the same, the town looked the same, but everything felt wrong. Too quiet, too safe, too normal. People wanted to hear war stories. They'd ask at church, at the general store, at the barber shop. What was it like? They'd say, eyes bright with curiosity, like it was an adventure, like it was a game. I'd give them what they wanted, sanitized versions, stripped of truth. Told them about marching through France, about the German surrender, about feeling proud to serve. Never told them about Eddie. Never told them about the gas, the rats, the man I killed with a bayonet. They couldn't understand, and I couldn't make them understand without destroying something in them that should stay whole. I tried to go back to farming, tried to care about corn prices and weather and fixing fences, but my hands would shake for no reason. Loud noises, thunder, a car backfiring, anything, would send me diving for cover before I could stop myself. I started drinking. Not much at first, just enough to help me sleep. Then more, then more. It didn't fix anything, but it made the numbness deeper, and deeper was better than feeling. Mary never married anyone else. Eddie's mother told me that years later. She'd waited for him, and when he didn't come back, she just waited. Some people break when they lose someone. Some people just stop. Mary never married anyone else. Eddie's mother told me that years later. She'd waited for him, and when he didn't come back, she just waited. Some people break when they lose someone. Some people just stop. 60 years. That's how long it's been since the Meuse Argonne. 60 years, and I still wake up in that forest sometimes. Still smell the gas. Still hear the shells. They call us the greatest generation now. Heroes, saviors of democracy. They make movies about the war. Clean soldiers with dirt smudged artistically on their faces. Dying heroic deaths with stirring music in the background. It's all lies. There was nothing heroic about drowning in your own lungs from gas. Nothing noble about watching your best friend disappear in a shell burst. Nothing glorious about killing a man close enough to see his wedding ring. The war didn't end on November 11th, 1918. It's still going on, right here, in my head, in my dreams, every day. I got married eventually. Sarah. Good woman, patient. She tried to understand, but how could she? She'd ask me sometimes, early on, what I was thinking about when I got that look in my eyes. I'd say nothing, and she learned to stop asking. We had children, 3 of them. I loved them, I think, in whatever way I was still capable of loving. But there was always distance, always that wall of glass. They grew up knowing their father was somewhere else, even when he was sitting right there. When the Second War came, in 41, they wanted me to feel proud. My oldest boy enlisted, just like I had. I couldn't feel proud. I just felt sick. Sick and terrified that he'd come back like me, if he came back at all. He did come back, from the Pacific. Saw things I'll never know about, just like he'll never really know what I saw. We don't talk about it. What would we say? We both know the same truth. War doesn't create heroes, it creates ghosts. I kept Eddie's photograph all these years. Mary's picture, faded and worn. I don't know why. Maybe to prove he existed, that he was real, that his life meant something. He was 23 when he died. Never got to marry Mary, never had kids, never got old like me. Sometimes I think he was the lucky one. He died still believing in something, still human. He didn't have to come back and pretend to be normal. Didn't have to spend 60 years wearing a mask, playing at being alive. They ask me now to speak at schools, at veterans events. They want me to inspire young people, tell them about duty and honor and sacrifice. I do it sometimes when they press hard enough, but I can't give them what they want. I tell them the truth instead. War is waste. It's waste of lives, waste of youth, waste of everything good in the world. The men who died in the Argonne, they didn't die for glory or freedom or any of the pretty words we use. They died because old men made decisions and young men paid the price. And the ones who survived, we paid too. We paid every day for the rest of our lives. People thank me for my service. Shake my hand, say, thank you for what you did. I nod and smile because that's what you do. But I want to tell them, don't thank me. Mourn me. Mourn all of us, the dead and the ones who died but kept breathing. The boy who left Iowa in 1918, full of naive courage and dreams of adventure, he never came home. He's still there, in the Argonne forest, scattered in the mud with Eddie and all the others. What came back was something else. A shell, a ghost, a man who learned to fake being human. That's what war does. It takes boys and destroys them, then sends back broken men and expects them to pretend nothing happened. Expects them to forget the smell, the sounds, the faces of the men they killed and the friends they lost. But you never forget, never. At night when I close my eyes, I'm 22 again. I'm in that forest. The shells are falling. Eddie is laughing his crazy laugh. The German soldiers are coming over the ridge. And I know with terrible certainty that I'm going to die there, except I didn't die. I just stopped living. That's the truth they don't put on monuments or in history books. War doesn't end. It just moves from the battlefield into the hearts and minds of the survivors, where it keeps killing us slowly for the rest of our lives. They tell me I'm a hero, but heroes are make-believe. I'm just an old man haunted by a forest in France, waiting to finally join the friends I left behind 60 years ago. Maybe then I'll finally come home. Part 1. Introduction before the battle. They ask me about the Meuse Argonne now, 60 years on, like it's ancient history, like it's something you read in a book, but I can still smell it. That's the thing they don't tell you. The smell never leaves. I was 22 when we shipped out from New York in June of 18. Farm boy from Iowa, never been further than Des Moines. My pa shook my hand at the train station, didn't say much, didn't need to. We both knew what was happening over there, even if the papers dressed it up in flags and glory. The AEF, American Expeditionary Forces, we were fresh troops for an old war. The French and British, they'd been bleeding in those trenches for 4 years. You could see it in their eyes when we arrived. They looked at us like we were ghosts already. By September, we were bivouacked near Verdun. The trees there weren't any trees. Just stumps and splinters, like God had taken a razor to the whole countryside. The ground was dead. Nothing grew. Shell craters filled with brown water that smelled like copper and rot. We trained for the big push. General Pershing wanted to prove American soldiers could fight as good as any, maybe better. The Meuse Argonne sector, they told us it was strategic, that breaking through there would cut German supply lines, maybe end the war by Christmas. I remember Eddie Kowalski from Chicago bunked next to me. He kept a photograph of a girl named Mary, showed it to anyone who'd look, said he was going to marry her soon as we got home. We believed we'd all be home soon. We had to believe something. The offensive was set for September 26th. The night before, nobody slept much. We checked our equipment, wrote letters we hoped we wouldn't need to send. I remember my hands wouldn't stop shaking when I tried to light a cigarette. At 02:30 hours, our artillery opened up. The whole world turned into thunder.